G'day viewers, and welcome to Aussie Backyard Food, where we try to show you just how easy it is to grow your own top quality organic carrots. Let's get into it. Okay, the first step for today is to prepare our veggie bed. My veggie garden is made up of 6 equal sized veggie beds, and I employ a bit of a rotation system so as not to grow the same veggies in the same spot one after the other. So I try and move our veggies around, thereby trying to reduce the pests that predate on that particular type of veggie and limit the need for any use of any chemicals. So let's get into it. So I use what most people call the no-dig method. Not just because I'm lazy, but I think it's the best method to produce the best veggies year after year. So firstly, we add the fertiliser. So I've got a roughly 2.5 by 2 metre bed here, and 30 kilos of chook pup pretty much does that size area, I find, well, and I try to do this process to each bed at least twice a year. So what I've done is chop up and spread around all the weeds and any old leftover veggies from the last crop, because that'll all work through. The worms will consume that and turn it into soil, and that's all good for the organic balance of the soil within the bed. So spread it out nice and even. Just using our feet to spread the fertiliser around, so each part of the bed has a good coverage. So I've left this wild rocket here on purpose. I tend to leave all the herbs, let them go to flower and then seed, because the bees, being a beekeeper, the bees just love herb flowers, which is a bit of an indicator on their value to the bees and probably to us as well. And also the second reason is because they'll go to seed then, and that ensures I've got a next generation of herbs without having to always go to the nursery to buy them. The next step is to add our mulch. I use a sugarcane mulch, and I find 1 bag is enough for this surface area. Spreading that out as much as we can. So, you might have noticed that the soil level was a little low in that bed. That's what happens when the organisms consume all the nutrients that are within the fertiliser and within the sugarcane mulch. You find your soil level drops, and that's one thing with the no-dig method. But I see that as an advantage, because that tells you it's time to top up the nutrients, top up the compost. The other reason I like to throw compost over my fertiliser is that smell you can smell with fertiliser, and it tends to intensify in those first couple of days. That's all escaping nutrients, and that's no good. We don't want to be buying nutrients just to have it evaporate into the atmosphere. Throw a cover of compost on it. The sugarcane mulch works well. That causes everything to have to go downwards where we want it, in the soil where it does its good. So because we're growing carrots, we're going to have to let that bed sit for 6 weeks. If you were to be planting anything else, like leafy greens, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks would be enough, just to let the heat go out of that. If you were to come back after we wet this down and scrape away the mulch off the top of that, in a couple of days you'd see and you'd feel the heat. That heat is actually no good for the plants and you'll burn their roots. So what we're going to do to plant our carrots today is find a pre-prepared patch of soil over here. Here's one I prepared earlier, and plant our seeds there. A lot of people say they have trouble growing carrots. I don't think it's too hard. I think the key thing with carrots and any root vegetable is good soil preparation. I also noticed that you can buy carrot seedlings in punnets. As with any root vegetable, the golden rule is you need to plant from seed. Their roots are so delicate that you try and plant them out of a punnet and it's game over. Forget about it. So let's get into it. Scrape back the mulch. As I said, this bed we prepared 6 weeks ago. So there's plenty of worms doing their work, making this a nice, light, friable soil. Just look at all the organic matter in that. That's from last season's crop, and look at all the worms. There you go, look at all the worms. That's a sign of a good soil. We don't want any of these little buggers because they are the enemy. They love eating roots. Curl grubs. Give him a squash. Just give it a bit of a dig through. Smooth him out. And don't worry too much about how concentrated your seed dispersal is, because if you plant more than not enough, you just come back later and thin them out, throw the little ones in a salad, and come back later and collect the big ones for your roast. Because they're a small seed, they don't need to be in too deep. Pretty much the rule is you plant a seed the depth of the size of the seed itself. So I find with a small seed like a carrot, I just give it a smooth over. Now, one other consideration with a root vegetable, the first 2 weeks are crucial. Make sure you don't let them dry out. So just every day try and remember, come out, give them a bit of a water, weather permitting of course. If it's raining, then your work's done for you. Okay, so we give them a good soak. When you got sunny weather like we have today, give them a good soak once a day. That's also the advantage with having lots of organic material within the soil structure, because as you put it on as compost, it'll work its way through. The organisms, the insects, the worms will dig it through for you. They do all the work, and that allows the water to be retained within the soil. The soil acts more like a sponge than it would otherwise. Once again, here's some I prepared earlier. I probably planted these around about 4 months ago, so let's see how they're going. Not bad, I reckon. Check those out. You know what? They barely even need a wash. Look at that. You can't beat that for flavour. And what's a bit of dirt? I think we exist in too sterile an environment these days anyway. Bloody beautiful. Catch ya.